Night shifts keep civilization pretending it never sleeps. But past midnight, the cameras miss what the eyes feel. This isn't a ghost story. It's the pattern that turns empty lobbies into hunting grounds. If you've ever felt watched at work, comment "watched." If you trust locks and lights, type "safe." Let's see where you stand when the lights cut out. Hit that subscribe button now, because what you're about to discover is unlike anything else you've heard. And if you've ever worked a night shift alone, leave a comment with just one word: "watched," if you felt eyes on you in the darkness, or "safe," if you believe you're protected by locks and lights. By the end of this story, we'll see if your answer changes. Across the highways and back roads of rural America, a network of light pierces the darkness. Gas stations, motels, small hotels, islands of fluorescent illumination in oceans of night, each one staffed by a single person, maintaining the illusion that civilization never sleeps. These are the forgotten sentinels of the night economy. Sarah Chen at the Grand Vista Hotel, reading romance novels between guest check-ins. Meredith Torres at the night shift station, counting cigarette cartons and brewing coffee for truckers who may never come. David Crane at the Sunset Motel, watching old westerns on a television that hasn't been upgraded since the 1990s. They don't know each other. They've never met, but they're connected by something more sinister than loneliness. They're all part of a pattern that stretches across 12 states, a geometric grid of vulnerability that someone has been mapping for years. The pattern is precise. Each location sits exactly 15 miles from the next, creating a web of isolated workplaces where single employees maintain control over empty spaces. Small hotels with burgundy carpet and pendant lights, gas stations with bulletproof glass and the smell of burned coffee, motels with pink neon signs and rooms rented by the week. But tonight, the pattern is about to reveal itself. Tonight, the hunters are coming to collect. The Grand Vista Hotel sits on Highway 9 like a relic from the 1980s. All burgundy carpet and brass fixtures that have lost their shine. Sarah Chen has worked the night desk for 8 months, long enough to know the rhythm of emptiness. The automatic doors whoosh open maybe 6 times per shift. Business travelers, mostly. People who pay cash and leave before dawn. But at 11:47 p.m., something different enters her lobby. The security camera records everything. A man of average height, unremarkable clothes, but there's something mechanical about his movements, too measured, too deliberate. He approaches the counter with surgical precision, produces a driver's license and credit card with movements that seem rehearsed. Sarah processes his registration, room 237, 3rd floor. The transaction appears to go through normally. She hands him a key card, notices his skin is cold when their fingers brush, marble cold. He takes the key but doesn't go to his room. Instead, he walks to the seating area and sits in a wingback chair facing the reception desk, just sits there staring. For the next 4 hours, he appears and disappears throughout the lobby like smoke, standing by the fake fireplace, emerging from behind pillars, always watching, always calculating. Sarah tries to work, but her hands shake as she types. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting harsh shadows that seem to move independently. At 12:15 a.m., the phone rings. Silence on the other end, then a soft click. When Sarah looks up, the man is gone. The chair sits empty, but she can feel eyes on her from somewhere in the shadows. She checks her computer system. This is when the impossible reveals itself. Room 237 shows occupied, but the keycard has never been used. No entry log, no electronic signature of the door being opened. According to every digital record, no one checked in after 11:30 p.m. But there are the photographs. They're scattered across the dresser in room 237 when police finally investigate. Dozens of them, all of Sarah, working at the front desk, walking to her car, watering plants through her living room window. Pictures taken with telephoto lenses from impossible distances, showing intimate details of her life that no stranger should know. The security footage tells an even more disturbing story. The cameras show Sarah having detailed conversations with empty air, processing a check-in for no one, handing a key card to invisible hands. From the perspective of the recording equipment, she spent 4 hours alone, talking to shadows, but Sarah knows what she experienced. The cold touch of skin like marble, the mechanical precision of movements, the eyes that never blinked, never looked away. the voice that somehow knew her name without reading a name tag she wasn't wearing. The credit card transaction was declined. The system shows an attempted charge, but it never went through. There's no record of anyone checking in, yet someone was there, someone who knew her schedule, her habits, her address, someone who had been watching long enough to fill an entire room with photographs. The first pieces of the pattern were falling into place. 67 miles south of the Grand Vista Hotel, Meredith Torres tends her fortress of fluorescent light. The night shift station has been her domain for 2 months, Tuesday through Saturday, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. She sits behind bulletproof glass, protected from the world by layers of security cameras and panic buttons, or so she believes. Frank Morrison has been coming in 3 nights a week since she started working. Claims to be a long-haul trucker, but his hands are too soft, his clothes too clean. He always buys the same things: black coffee, a candy bar, asks for directions to places that don't exist on any map. Tonight, he knows her name without reading a name tag she isn't wearing. Tonight, he describes changes to her appearance that no casual customer should notice. The shampoo she switched from apple to coconut. The small stain on her blue shirt from her first week of work. The way she bites her lower lip when concentrating on inventory sheets. Tonight, he produces photographs, 17 Polaroid pictures, arranged on the counter like evidence in a trial, each one more invasive than the last. Meredith at work, taken through the bulletproof glass from close range. So close the camera must have been pressed against the window. Meredith at home in the trailer park, photographed through her bedroom window. Meredith at McDonald's after work, captured without her knowledge during her weekly routine. Frank narrates each photograph like a documentary filmmaker reviewing his work. August 15th, her first night, wearing the blue shirt with the stain. August 18th, figuring out which coffee maker makes the best pot. Each date, each detail, each invasion of privacy catalogued with obsessive precision. When deputies arrive, Frank vanishes into the darkness beyond the parking lot lights. But his documentation remains: professional-grade telephoto lenses, detailed notebooks filled with her schedule, her habits, her visitors. A surveillance blind constructed in the tree line behind her trailer, camouflaged and weatherproofed for extended use. The level of detail is staggering. Frank knows that pizza delivery arrives Tuesday nights, always the same driver named Jamie in a red Honda. He knows Mrs. Patterson delivers mail at 11:15 a.m. on Tuesdays and Fridays. He knows Meredith's sister called twice last month but never visited. This isn't casual stalking. This is systematic intelligence gathering. Frank has made Meredith his full-time job, studying her with the dedication of a scientist observing a laboratory specimen. But Frank is just the beginning. As Frank disappears into the night, something else begins. At gas stations across 3 counties, a coordinated operation unfolds with military precision. At Meredith Station, 3 identical sedans arrive simultaneously. Late-model vehicles with no visible license plates, positioned to eliminate blind spots and create perfect sightlines to the store from multiple angles. The drivers remain invisible behind tinted windows, but their formation is deliberate, calculated. One figure emerges and conducts a walking inspection of all 3 vehicles, like a general reviewing troops before battle. The cars then reposition themselves, headlights blazing directly into the store, creating a wall of blinding white light. The phone rings. Multiple calls, each from a different number, each voice electronically distorted, but delivering the same message. We know you're watching us, Meredith, but are you watching carefully enough? When police sirens approach, all 3 vehicles simultaneously kill their headlights and disappear in perfect formation. They leave no tire tracks, no oil stains, no evidence they were ever there. The security footage shows Meredith crouching behind the counter, pointing at empty space, having conversations with no one. But frame-by-frame analysis reveals something impossible. Individual frames exist that show the vehicles clearly, time-stamped at moments that never occurred according to the digital system. Phantom seconds that capture phantom cars, visible only when examined outside the normal flow of time. This same pattern repeats at 17 other locations across the region. Always 3 cars, always the same formation, always disappearing without trace when authorities arrive, always leaving behind workers who sound insane when they try to explain what they witnessed. The grid is activating. At the Sunset Motel, David Crane experiences the most direct contact yet. His encounter begins not with a visitor, but with a sound, the brass bell on his counter ringing rhythmically every 30 seconds like a mechanical heartbeat. The bell mechanism shows no sign of activation. The striker never touches the dome, yet the sound continues with metronomic precision. David searches the small office, finding nothing but dust and shadows. Then the bell falls silent, and something else begins. The scrape of fabric against wood. From underneath the counter, a pale hand emerges from a space barely 18 inches wide, followed by an arm in a dark sleeve. A man unfolds from the impossible hiding place with liquid grace, like a spider emerging from a crack in the wall. He's unremarkable in every way except for his eyes, which reflect light like an animal's. He brushes dust from his clothes with casual precision, as if crawling out from under furniture is routine behavior. His presence fills the small office with oppressive atmosphere, making the air thick and hard to breathe. He knows David's routine down to the minute. How at 4:57 a.m. every night, David closes his book and stretches, rolling his shoulders exactly 3 times before cracking his knuckles. How he lives alone in the apartment behind the office. How he watches the same Western movie every night while pretending to read. The man examines the office with the attention of someone conducting a real estate appraisal, running fingers along surfaces as if memorizing textures. He tries the door to David's private quarters, shows disappointment when he finds it locked. He selects a key from the wall rack, room 7, as he mentioned wanting to rent, and walks calmly to the room as if he belongs there. David watches through the office window as the man enters the room and disappears. When state troopers arrive, room 7 is empty. No sign of occupancy, no evidence anyone was ever there. The key hangs in its proper place on the rack, undisturbed. The space under the counter shows no tracks in dust that hasn't been disturbed in months. But the security footage reveals the same impossible pattern. Frame-by-frame analysis shows a pale hand reaching from shadows at a timestamp that doesn't exist in the digital record. Moments between seconds where impossible things become briefly visible before vanishing back into the gap between reality and documentation. 3 locations, 3 impossible encounters, 3 workers who sound insane when they try to explain their experiences, all part of a grid that someone has been mapping for years. Detective Maria Santos brings the 3 victims together because their separate stories create a pattern too precise to ignore. Spread across her conference table are case files from 23 locations, each stamped insufficient evidence, but collectively telling a story of systematic predation. The Riverside Inn, 40 miles north. Night clerk Alice Morrison reported an identical experience, a guest who checked in but never existed. Security footage showing conversations with empty air. Alice disappeared 4 days later. Pine Valley Gas, 60 miles south. Night shift worker Tom Bradley claimed 3 cars surrounded his station, made threatening calls, vanished without evidence. Tom was found missing from his apartment 1 week after filing his report. Mountain View Motel, 20 miles east. Manager Maria Gonzalez, found hiding in her parking lot, claimed someone crawled from under her counter. Maria was last seen leaving work 6 days ago. The pattern extends across 12 states, always rural areas, always night shift workers, always the same impossible circumstances that make victims sound delusional. But Detective Santos has discovered something else that connects every case. The missing people don't stay missing. Alice Morrison resurfaced in Phoenix, working night security at a defense contractor. Tom Bradley appeared in Nevada, employed at a nuclear facility. Maria Gonzalez now works at the CDC in Atlanta, all in positions requiring security clearance. All granted new identities based on their invisible status, people with no significant social connections to question changes in behavior. The encounters aren't harassment, they're interviews, data collection for a process that transforms isolated individuals into perfect sleeper agents who don't know they're sleeper agents. But before Detective Santos can explain more, the lights in the police station cut out. Emergency lighting kicks in, casting everything in blood-red illumination. Through the conference room window, they see black sedans surrounding the building with military precision. The grid has found them. The facility exists in a space between spaces, where white corridors stretch under fluorescent lights that never dim. Sarah Chen wakes strapped to a medical chair, electrodes attached to her temples, IV line feeding unknown chemicals into her bloodstream. Through observation windows, she can see Meredith and David in identical chairs. Other rooms contain dozens more subjects in various stages of processing. The operation is vast, systematic, corporate in its efficiency. Dr. Elena Vasquez enters, but she's different from the paranoid researcher who tried to warn Detective Santos. Her eyes are cold, calculating. The frightened whistleblower has been replaced by someone else entirely. Or rather, the same person with edited memories and modified objectives. The process is elegant in its horror. Memory suppression combined with behavioral conditioning, taking weeks of intensive treatment to create results that pass every psychological evaluation. The subjects truly believe in their new cover stories because, to their modified minds, the lies have become truth. Sarah Chen will become Sarah Mitchell, night security at a defense contractor. Meredith Torres will be Meredith Davis, working at a chemical plant with access to emergency systems. David Crane will be David Walsh, maintaining servers at a telecommunications hub that routes internet traffic for millions of people. Detective Santos lies in another chair, being prepared to become an FBI liaison with access to law enforcement databases nationwide. Her new personality will redirect investigations away from certain rural areas, ensuring the harvest can continue undetected. The beautiful symmetry of the program reveals itself. Invisible people, selected for their lack of social connections, processed into perfect assets for infrastructure infiltration. They'll work in power plants, water treatment facilities, communication networks, government buildings, all the critical systems that keep civilization functioning. And when the activation phrase is spoken, the harvest is complete. They'll remember their true purpose. Sarah Mitchell walks confidently through the security checkpoint at Advanced Systems Defense, her badge scanning automatically. She smiles at guards who know her as a dedicated night security supervisor who's worked there for 2 years, though she only arrived 3 months ago. In her modified memories, she chose this job because it gave her life meaning. The pay is good, the responsibility is important. The access to classified systems a privilege she doesn't take lightly. Sometimes she has strange dreams about working at a hotel, but they feel like memories from someone else's life. Meredith Davis monitors chemical flow rates at the processing plant, her expertise in emergency protocols making her invaluable to management. She enjoys the night shift, the quiet routine, though she can't shake the feeling she's done similar work before somewhere else. David Walsh maintains the server farm at Central Communications Hub, his security clearance allowing access to the region's primary internet infrastructure. The work feels familiar, comfortable, like he was meant to do it. Sometimes he dreams about motels and pink neon signs, but the dreams fade by morning. Detective Maria Santos reviews terrorist threat assessments at her FBI field office, her new position providing perfect oversight of rural crime investigations. She has a daughter named Emma who plays violin, though she struggles to remember the child's face. The important thing is that rural crime statistics are improving dramatically. Those reports of stalkers and mysterious vehicles have decreased significantly. Case closed. Problem solved. Move along. In each location, supervisors note their exceptional dedication, willingness to work extra hours, deep knowledge of critical systems. Model employees, everyone. Perfect assets placed in perfect positions. In a sterile control facility buried beneath corporate headquarters, dozens of monitors display live feeds from security cameras across the nation. Each screen shows a former harvest subject in their new position, performing duties with perfect compliance. The operation has grown beyond anyone's imagination. A massive wall map displays thousands of pins, each representing a processed subject in a critical infrastructure position. Power plants, water facilities, communication networks, government buildings, transportation hubs, research facilities, military installations. The man from the hotel lobby sits at the master console, reviewing performance metrics on his subjects. Average in every way that makes him forgettable, unremarkable except for his administrative efficiency. He checks deployment schedules, activation protocols, expansion targets. Phase 1 is complete. 2,000 assets successfully positioned and activated across critical infrastructure. Phase 2 recruitment has already begun, expanding the grid to encompass smaller cities and suburban areas. The target for operational readiness, 10,000 subjects within 5 years. On his desk lies a list of names with photographs. The next harvest cycle is beginning. Night shift workers, security guards, maintenance personnel, anyone who maintains civilization's infrastructure during the hours when most people sleep. People whose disappearance would cause minimal social disruption. The first name on the new list, James Carver, night janitor at a federal courthouse. Outside, dozens of black sedans prepare for deployment. Each vehicle carries the tools of systematic predation, surveillance equipment, psychological profiles, and agents who've perfected the art of being unmemorable. They know exactly where to find their targets, alone in pools of fluorescent light, maintaining empty spaces while darkness presses against the windows. The night shift continues across America, in small hotels where burgundy carpet hides bloodstains, in gas stations where bulletproof glass provides an illusion of safety, in motels where pink neon signs flicker like dying heartbeats. Each location staffed by someone invisible, someone whose absence won't be immediately noticed, someone perfect for processing. The harvest never ends, it only expands. What you've heard tonight is not fiction. It's documentation of a systematic operation targeting America's most vulnerable workers, people who maintain our infrastructure during the hours when civilization sleeps. They work alone in pools of fluorescent light, invisible sentinels guarding empty spaces. They process travelers at hotels where no one asks questions. They tend gas stations where cash transactions leave no digital trail. They manage motels where people rent rooms by the week and leave no forwarding address. These workers are chosen specifically because they exist on society's margins. People with few social connections, predictable routines, limited family contact. Their disappearance for several weeks would cause minimal disruption. Their return with subtle personality changes would go unnoticed. The grid spans 12 states and growing, each location precisely positioned 15 miles from the next, creating a mathematical pattern of vulnerability. The encounters follow identical protocols: systematic surveillance, psychological profiling, data collection disguised as harassment. Those who report these incidents are dismissed as unstable, stressed by isolation and night shift work. Security footage mysteriously malfunctions. Evidence disappears. Witnesses sound insane when they try to explain impossible encounters. But frame-by-frame analysis reveals the truth. Individual video frames exist, showing phantom figures at timestamps that don't exist in the digital record. Moments between moments where impossible things become briefly visible before vanishing back into the gap between documentation and reality. The missing workers resurface in new cities, new identities, new jobs requiring security clearance. They have access to power plants, water treatment facilities, communication networks, government buildings, all the critical infrastructure that keeps civilization functioning, and they remember nothing of their previous lives. They believe they chose their new positions, that the work gives their lives meaning. They pass every psychological evaluation because their modified memories make the lies feel like truth. They're perfect sleeper agents who don't know they're sleeper agents. Until the activation phrase is spoken, the harvest is complete. So the next time you stop at a rural gas station after midnight or check into a small hotel where the night clerk sits alone behind bulletproof glass, remember what you've learned. Look at the shadows beyond the fluorescent lights. Notice if there are cars parked just outside the range of security cameras. Pay attention to whether the person behind the counter seems to know things about you that a stranger shouldn't know. And if you work the night shift yourself, if you maintain empty spaces while darkness presses against the windows, remember that someone might be watching. Someone might be documenting your routines, your habits, your social connections. Someone might be deciding whether you're invisible enough to harvest. The grid is still expanding. The night shift continues, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the fluorescent lights, patient figures wait for their next assignment. Welcome to the harvest. Your processing appointment has already been scheduled. You just don't remember agreeing to it yet.